You turn my morning into dancing. You turn my morning into dancing. Your love changes everything. There's something about your love. Something about your love changes everything. Changes everything. Something about your love. Something about your love changes everything. Changes everything. Something about your love. Something about your love changes everything. Changes everything. Something about your love. Something about your love changes everything. Changes everything. Something about your love. Something about your love changes everything. Changes everything. Something about your love. Something about your love changes everything. You turn my morning into dancing. 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 'Cause your love changes everything. Your love changes everything. You turn my morning into dancing. You turn my morning into dancing. You turn my morning into dancing. 'Cause your love changes everything. Your love changes everything. Oh, there's something about your love. Something about your love changes everything in my body. Oh, something about your love. Something about your love changes everything. It changes everything. Something about your love. Something about your love changes everything. It changes everything. Something about your love. Something about your love changes everything. Changes everything. Something about your love. Something about your love changes everything. Something about your love. Something about your love changes everything. Changes everything. Something about your love. Something about your love changes everything. Changes everything. Something about your love. Something about your love changes everything. You turn my morning into dancing. You turn my morning into dancing. You turn my morning into
Good morning, Rooted Men. Matt Ryan, elder from the Rooted Ministries. Pleasure to be with you this morning. And I'm looking rough in this light. Sorry about that. Friday morning. My Friday mornings with you, something I cherish. We're working through the Book of James, which is one of those ones that a lot of people can feel convicted by or challenged by, to say the least. Here we are, another beautiful Friday. Looking forward to a beautiful weekend. Tons of sunshine today. Hope that this morning finds you well and finds you looking forward to another great weekend, to more opportunities to seek and serve the Father. Today we're going to talk a little bit about favoritism, but I think it goes even deeper than that. So in just the beginning of chapter 2, James, we're just going to look at the first 7 verses here. It says, "My brothers, as believers in our glorious Lord," let me pull it up on the screen for you here so you can follow along. "As believers in our glorious Lord, Jesus Christ, must not show favoritism. Suppose a man comes into your meeting wearing a gold ring and fine clothes, and a poor man in filthy old clothes also comes in. If you show special attention to the man wearing fine clothes and say, 'Here's a good seat for you,' but say to the poor man, 'You stand there,' or 'Sit on the floor by my feet,' have you not discriminated amongst yourselves and become judges with evil thoughts?" This is interesting because it goes right to convicting you, right? So, brothers and sisters, right, assumes that we're already in assembly, right? We're already in church together. We're believers together. So we're talking to people who are believers in the glorious Lord, as it says, and we must not show favoritism. So what is favoritism, right? So does it mean we can't like people better than others, or does it mean there can't be people who are in our inner circle that we might trust more, right? No, this is really talking about strangers, right? And then, of course, that comes along with judging them by their appearance. So here we see the man with the gold ring and the fine clothes, earthly things that we tend to put value on here in this kingdom. And this is one of those challenges, right? But the poor man, we say sit wherever, right? Sit on the floor, right? You can be anywhere, it's okay. Well, the funny thing is, if you look back and think about, right, the meek shall inherit the earth, we have all kinds of times when it's the poor people who show the most faith. And we talk about the rich people would have the hardest time to get into heaven, right? So, what's in this? Why is it such a big deal to show favoritism? Well, if you get down to the heart of what you're really talking about, it says, "Have you not discriminated among yourselves and become judges with evil thoughts?" In order to come to the conclusion that the person with the gold ring and the fine clothes is worth more in status than the person with the filthy old clothes, you've made judgments, right? Even subconsciously. And I think we still do this today. I mean, you think about if someone comes in on Sunday morning and they're, a clean cut family and they're all showered and fresh and they're, wearing nice clothes, how many people are going to greet them? And if someone comes in off the, the Nota bus or something who, isn't bathed or might not have the nicest clothes or whatever, how many people are going to greet them or kind of stay at an arm's length? None of this is to kind of condemn anybody, but just think about it. This isn't something that is old, way off in the past, right? This still exists today. And even though we don't mean to, even in this environment where we create and try to welcome people, we may still be judging, and no doubt judging by this world's standards. Listen, my dear brothers and sisters, has not God chosen those who are poor in the eyes of the world to be rich in faith and to inherit the kingdom he promised to those who love him? But you have dishonored the poor. Is it not the rich who are exploiting you? Are they not the ones who are dragging you into court? Are they not the ones who are blaspheming the noble name of him to whom you belong? And so this points out directly, right? It's the rich who have always oppressed the poor throughout the stories of history of the Bible. Throughout the Old Testament, you certainly see that over and over again, still happening in the New Testament. And so there's obviously a place where I would say faith in many of the stories of the Bible tends to be more common among the poor, where the rich often tend to be more committed to the material things that we value so much. Now, does this say everybody? Does it mean every poor person's going to heaven and every rich person's going to hell? Of course not. It's just talking in broad brushstrokes, right? These are lessons that we tend to see again and again. But what I want to challenge you on is something that's a little tougher, right? When you think about where your heart is, if you're treating people differently this way, if you're making these judgments, which happen, what you're really doing is valuing people only for what they might bring you. Have you ever done that? I know I have. That's why I ask. Have you ever looked at people or befriended people? You know, we call it networking in the legal world and in the business world. And it's one of those things that just makes me kind of shudder when people talk about needing to do it. You need to be a better networker, right? Go out there and meet people and figure out what you can get from them. It's always bothered me. But what a this kingdom perspective it is to look at people for what value they might bring to your life, right? Not for how they might challenge you or walk with you, or even that they might need you to serve them, right? It's kind of this upside down way of looking at things. Jesus came to serve us and taught us to serve others. Yet we tend to often judge people and seek out relationships even with people who might serve us in a way, right? There might be scraps falling from the table of the wealthy people, so to speak, right? We value so much material things in this world. We seek them out, but we forget how incredibly wealthy we are. Yes, each of us, whether we work or not, whether we make a salary we're comfortable with or not, we are among the richest people in the world. There's countless people who had to travel miles today to get water so that they might get enough water in their system to live, to wake up tomorrow and do it again. There are countless people who sleep without shelter every night. Millions of people around the world. And we so often forget, right? Yet, in our American culture, we seek more and more and more. I don't mean to pick at you, brothers. I'm merely laying out the way that I see myself. I've looked back many times in my life and seen a pattern, and I can only call it using people, even though I never meant to. It's the same thing I've talked about before with every girl I ever dated or sought a physical relationship with. It was only ever using them to make myself feel good. And if only I could teach that perspective to teenage boys, including my own, but to others around the world, you know, we could make relationships so much better. If only I could have processed, right? You think of all the hurt you would have saved people, the selfish things we do. So it's really about a heart issue. Yes, it's about judgment, but it's about what's your heart looking for? Am I looking for what I can get from people? Or am I looking for what I can give to people? How I can change their lives? How in simple acts of service, whether getting thanks or not, how much more fulfilling is it to be seeking opportunities to be the one serving others, that they would view you as rich in faith and want to be around you because you bring them meaningful, long-lasting, eternal gifts, things that they really need. Interesting way of looking at it. So, brothers, I think that's what James is pushing us to do, how he's pushing us to think. Stop valuing people for how they look. Look at them as Christ would look at them. That even his enemies thought he treated people fair and impartially. He didn't treat people better or worse because of the way they looked or they act or their race or color or creed or anything else. And we shouldn't either. Gentlemen, I hope that's a good challenge for you today. I hope that that helps with some perspective on things. And I hope you continue with me on this journey of finding ways to seek out and serve people, to continue to live as Christ would. I love you, man. I hope it's a great day. Let's make it a firmly rooted day and a firmly rooted weekend. And may someone see Jesus in us today. Peace.